rise for the pledge. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all remain standing for a moment of silence. Unfortunately today we lost a dear friend, Mike Fallon, who served the town of Philipstown since 1993. He's been the director of the Continental Village Park District. If you knew Mike, what a wonderful, wonderful man he was. I appreciate everything he's done for the community for these 32 years. Came in here prepared, soft-spoken. He and Justine have really run a tight ship in Continental Village. So just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start with the public hearing. Sarah, you want to go ahead?
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown on June 5th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. at the Philipstown Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments for or against a proposed local law entitled, a local law to enact a new section 175-42 entitled Solar Energy Systems in Article VII entitled Supplementary Regulations of Chapter 175 entitled Zoning to set forth a comprehensive policy for regulation of solar energy systems within the town of Philipstown. A complete copy of the local law is available for inspection upon request sent to townclerk@philipstown.com and is also available on the town's website, philipstown.com, dated May 21st, 2025, by order of the Town Board, Tara K. Percocello, Town Clerk.
So this has been an ongoing process for quite a while. My thanks go to Jason and the committee that has worked so hard to produce the law. Jason, would you like to say a few words?
Just a little bit of background just to recognize the advisory committee that helped draft this law, which was Martha Upton, Ben Davis, Peter Davis, Paul Thompson, and Nat Prentice. Paul Thompson couldn't be here because it's his wedding anniversary, and we were like, no, this is just as good as an anniversary. So we had to aboard. So, and just, it's been, I don't know, a year and a half, but that committee worked very hard, worked from a NYSDOT model law, looked at other communities' laws, adapted it to Philipstown's character. The draft law went to the planning board for comment, conservation board for comment, building department for comment, town engineer. All of those comments made it better, and really just a little bit of framework. The goals of the law are to maintain a clear process for siting solar in Philipstown. A lot of communities do not have any regulation, and that leads to a lot of problems in their communities. It is to protect the community character and environmental resources while siting solar, to try to reduce the cost of electricity for Philipstown residents, and to take action on the climate. And I just think the main thing people should know is that, the law breaks solar up into two different important categories. One is Class A solar systems, which are solar systems that a property owner puts on their property when they're using all of the solar from the system. And this law treats that as an accessory use. And then Class B systems, which are systems where the electricity being produced are used by people off-site. They're commercial systems, and this law asks those sorts of projects to go through a more stringent regulatory process. It tries to incentivize solar on brownfields and parking lots and landfills first. And it tries to require that community solar projects offer benefits and electricity bill discounts to Philipstown residents. So that was kind of the general framework, and I really thank the advisory task force for putting in so much work on it.
As do I.
And Steve Gaba, who really worked on it as well.
My appreciation. Yeah. We're going to open it up to the public. Anybody like to comment? Sir, could you state your name?
Be sure to speak into the mic.
Are you familiar with the process here?
I'm the chairman of the zoning board. I'm sure there's going to be some variances coming before me, board. I'm just trying to get a handle on where this is at. Just have a couple of questions. The town has become accustomed to the rooftop installation, so I don't see any issues there. You know, everybody's happy with that and like that. What I see issues with is the ground installation. Now, the way I read it, the law would allow commercial solar farms in all zoning districts, except for the Ridgeline Protection District and only in the Scenic Overlay District with a special permit. Which board is going to handle a special permit for that?
Planning board.
What's that, planning?
Planning board.
Planning.
You need site plan and a special permit.
Okay.
You need site plan and a special permit, so that would go to the planning board.
That's on the commercial end.
And a commercial and a ridgeline protection or a scenic protection area, right? Okay, now, the department allows commercial to be installed in residential zoning, am I correct? Okay. What mechanics are in place to change the zoning from residential to commercial? Right, because if you're in a residential neighborhood, all lots are residential.
Yeah.
Now I buy a residential lot and I'm a commercial company, right? And I want to put a solar, that's okay in this law? Is my question.
If I buy a residential lot as a commercial, Class B systems commercial are allowed in residential rural districts, but it would have to go through that that planning board process.
I didn't see that in there. That's what I'm saying. What I read, I didn't see it. So if you're going to commercial, because commercial in the residential area is going to be an issue. You understand that?
Yeah, I mean, any solar system that's selling solar energy off-site would be viewed as a commercial system, and so it would have to go through that planning board process. In the case of the scenic overlay, it would have to go through a special
Permit as well.
Special permit on top of that.
Okay, and that's in the law, or
Yeah.
with the draft law. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now the other question is that it says that the draft allows 12-foot panels, right? And in 5,000 square feet, it must be shielded from neighbors. How do you plan to shield that from neighbors? Because the zoning is 6 foot for a fence. Yeah. Like it looks like if you want to do this as a person, a regular resident, you know, I want to put in the backyard, you could do it, okay? But let's say I'm on a half-acre property, and I got a 20-yard setback. How do I shield a 12-foot solar panel from my neighbor?
Well, the maximum height of the ground mount, so ground mount is any solar that's mounted to the ground. That maximum height at the high end, usually they're tilted. That maximum height of 12 feet is just at the back end. But as you're making a good point, I mean, a 6 foot is the highest height of a fence, but I don't think any of the communities that we looked at ever said trying to screen that ground mount would require fencing up to 12 feet, because that would be more obtrusive or create more of an eyesore, you know. So,
okay, because I'm looking at problems that's going to be coming to us, is what I'm trying to say, right? You know, and I'm looking at, and if I have
You're concerned that the ZBA is going to get a request for a taller fence, because that would come under you guys.
Somebody's going to come to us and say, listen, I don't want to be looking at that fence next door at my neighbor. You know, I got my backyard, and I'm sitting in my backyard barbecue, I'm looking at a 12-foot high thing. I don't want to see it. How do I, you know, I mean, are we going to allow higher fences?
The variance criteria would be the same as for any other area variance.
Okay, those are my questions. I just saw it as an issue because, first of all, you know it's going to be an issue, commercial and residential. I'm sure you're aware of that.
About that at great length.
Yeah,
we considered not allowing the solar facilities in residential districts, the Class B. Right. But in the end, we don't think that it's going. The thought was that it won't be a real problem, and to the extent that you'd need sufficient size lots to develop these, you're not going to find it in residential areas. And if you do find it in residential areas, the protections in law are sufficient so that the homes around it won't be adversely affected.
All right. I just said when I see the 12-foot high, and when I know we're only 6-foot fence, I just don't know how you're going to shield it. And I'm sure that's going to question is going to come to the variance board. I just want to know the answer. And at this point, I don't have one.
Yes, they will. There's going to be issues as far as screening goes. There's going to be issues as far as visual goes. And yes, of course. But I mean, as was pointed out it is somewhat controversial to have any commercial use, particularly a solar facility, in a residential neighborhood. But we discussed this at length, and the feeling was that it's going to work. It won't be a problem. And if it is a problem, you'll change the zoning and won't allow it. But
It is kind of a low-impact commercial use. It isn't
really
like
is.
there's no noise, there's some reflection, but it's not like it's a high-impact commercial use, so.
as a practical matter, you're not going to find somebody taking a 1 acre lot and trying to make it into a solar facility, or even a 5 acre lot, really. I mean, maybe. But they're going to want larger properties, and you're just not going to see that in Philipstown.
Well, say residential. Well, a person residential could put it in a backyard.
You're talking the single, ground-mounted, a couple of, yeah, those are going to be easy enough to screen. I don't see a
Right,
problem.
that's what I'm trying to say. Some of these properties are small, like you're down Sproutsbrook Road, or some of these properties are 10-foot sidelines. I'm trying to say, you don't want to be, I'm only saying what I'm going to rent it. This is how I feel what I'm going to rent it. And
What about the lot coverage percentage? Would that be
there's no
affected?
restriction in lot size. I mean, it doesn't say, it can be put on a half acre, correct?
Well, what about the lot coverage? Does the lot coverage?
I do not believe it counts against lot coverage. We discussed that as well.
It's treated like any other accessory
Yeah.
use structure, except we put a limit, because we notice in the accessory use, zoning map, under some commercial accessory use structures could be as large as 200,000 square feet. And so we thought that didn't make sense, so we did put a limit on the size.
But the percentage of lot coverage would be important in his point where he's talking about a half acre lot. If you cover the entire piece of property, which you wouldn't be able to with the percentage of lot coverage. It would.
You might want to think about lot size. I'm only trying to avoid the problems I ran with the wind turbine down here on 9D a few years ago, okay? I mean, I'm just trying to, it's still draft, so there's still things you could add to it. I'm just trying to help the resolution not hurt it. What I'm trying to say is because the way it reads to me is you could put it on any size lot. And,
Well, again, the lot coverage percentage would factor.
And he says it's a 1/4 acre lot. People are going to put roof-mounted ones. They're not going to be putting Class Bs on 1/4 acre lots. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, taking a moment to think this out. So you're saying in this example, let's say you've got a half acre lot, and you're building a ground mount system that's going to feed energy to your home,
Correct.
your property, then what is the?
Well, I'm next door, I'm barbecue.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in Sproutsbrook Road.
Yeah.
Let's say, for argument's sake, I'm next door on barbecue, and I can look at my neighbor's yard and like that. I don't want to look at. I know the person's going to tell me I don't want to look at a 12-foot high solar panel. You got to shield it, and you're saying here you're going to shield it. I'm a little confused as to shield it.
Well, the building inspector makes that determination on Class A's, which is, I think, what you're talking about here, the single ground-mounted panel on a single-family home. So the building inspector makes a determination as to what shielding is appropriate. And if he decides you got to plant arborvitae or something to shield it, then that's what's going to govern. If he says a
So the building
10-foot
inspector's gonna
fence
make
is
those
sufficient,
decisions?
that's what's going to govern. But I mean, a lot depends on the topography between the lots and where the houses are located. I mean, it's really a site-by-site determination.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to avoid problems for me, for the board. That's what I'm just saying, case by case. But it only takes one case to create a chaos.
When we talked with Greg Warner, that was one of the things he raised. He says, what's the standard that I'm going to be applying as far as this goes? And we discussed that it would be a case-by-case determination, and he's going to have to determine what screening is sufficient and what screening isn't sufficient. That's somewhat subjective, and it could lead to problems. But he does that with a lot of different things as far as building permits go, and, makes determinations on a case-by-case basis every day. So I don't see why he couldn't do it in this instance as well.
And it just, like I say, and I'll leave it with that. I just have no idea how you're going to shield a 12-foot from my neighbor.
Sorry about that. Just a quick. Could we put a lot size into this? Well, like, can we say like somebody who has like 2 acres and more, you can put this in,
We're
or
encouraging
Yeah.
solar usage. So, and I think if we do that, you're going to eliminate probably more than half of the parcels in the town of
right?
Philipstown.
But I mean, I have to agree.
So I think we have to have some faith in Greg's ability
Right,
to
right.
determine what would be obnoxious to the neighbors, and I think he does a good. Everything we do is going to face scrutiny. It doesn't matter, no matter how much time we put into public hearings and to drafting a law. We're going to have something that's going to come up. But I understand your point, and you see the other end of it with the fencing on the zoning board.
I know, it's just
When
like,
you
you know,
see
like,
that.
you know what happened with Desmond Fish Library, when they tried to put up a ground thing, they got beat up by so many neighbors, they withdrew it.
Right.
So I'm just, you know.
Well, now they wouldn't have to.
Okay. Come in, one.
I would just point, see if this, on a side note, see if this addresses the points you're raising on, where is it? It's small d, section of the law. Solar energy systems shall comply with the existing lot size requirements specified for accessory structures within the underlying zoning district as specified in attachment 2 to this chapter, Town of Philipstown dimensional table, provided, however, that the maximum footprint for ground-mounted Class A solar energy systems shall be no more than 5,000 square feet. Which,
It doesn't answer the question.
Okay,
I'll tell you
yeah.
why it doesn't answer the question, okay? Yeah, most houses are gonna put a garage or something, they're gonna put the garage mostly next to the house, okay? So they're worried about side line, not front or back or something like that. Mostly it's the side yard line they're worried about. So this here, you can put right in your back of your home. As long as you stay within the footing of your home, you don't have any problem. The only thing you have to worry about is the rear setback.
The lot coverage as well will factor in. You can't
Well,
exceed.
that doesn't say lot coverage, though.
But no, it has to meet the table, so it would factor into the lot coverage.
Yeah.
Because then if you already have the garage that's occupying square footage, and then you try to add this, you got to get it all within the percentage of your lot coverage for your
Percentage
area.
of lot size. So they're going to be coming to me for the over lot size.
It's all business for
Over
you.
the thing, right? I'm just trying to figure out which business is coming my way. That's
You'll be busy, Bob.
well, because they'll be coming for a variance for lot coverage,
And I have faith in you.
right?
A lot of it.
All right, just want to get the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Anyone else? Welcome.
I'm Alan Spiegel. Councilman Engel just rattled off a whole list of sites that would be given special consideration. And I was wondering if farms were considered for that list, because from my understanding, there's often some beneficial synergistic uses with farmlands.
That's a really good question. It's not included, so we did not include farmland, and there is a conversation about incorporating solar with farmland, but we really went the route of trying to incentivize what a lot of towns and model towns are doing, saying if you're going to put solar, let's first put it on brownfields, parking lots, rooftops, landfills before we start moving into green spaces. This doesn't limit that from happening, but it just didn't use it as an incentive like those others. But solar with farming is cool.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No?
Can I read these? I'm not talking all the time, so I apologize. But these are not my words. Can I read two statements? So I just wanted to, because last year, as we were developing this, we reached out to Haldane, Lee Alper, the science and environment teacher, and Rachel Arbor, who was at Garrison, who was the coordinator of environmental education and science. And they both, with their classes, I think Lee with her Haldane 9th grade science class, they wrote a statement that they wanted included as part of this process. And, since they are the young generation that will largely be dealing with climate change and its issues, they should have a voice here. So I just wanted to read the statements. This first one is from the Haldane, Lee Alper's class of Haldane students. Tried to get them here, but everybody was too busy, so this will have to suffice. Our community is responsible for promoting renewable energy production, both for our own sake and to help create a better world. Using safe, renewable energy not only protects the environment, but the people who live in it as well. We hope that if our community creates laws like this, we will influence others to also take steps towards protecting our environment. Renewable energy is a step towards a healthier future. Enacting this law and laws like it will help lower the cost of renewable energy, create more jobs, and reduce pollution. This law helps to address concerns around renewable energy, including potential environmental repercussions from solar installation and safe disposal of old solar panels. By both promoting renewable energy production and creating realistic guidelines, this law will actually help Philipstown to make change. We must act now because we want to make sure our community and world are preserved for generations to come. If we don't, we will see our skies darken, full of pollution, and the local ecosystems and wildlife will suffer immense harm. The atmosphere will fill with toxic gases and our environment will be irreparably damaged. Without changes in our behavior and our community's energy production, the world will become more and more polluted, and the things that make our community special will no longer be the same. So that was the statement written by a group of 9th grade Haldane students last year. And then this is the statement written by the Guff's 8th grade student, one of which we were talking about was Tara's daughter, who is not here, who also was part of writing the statement. We love Philipstown and its breathtaking views, flora, and fauna. A unique thing we love about the Hudson Valley is the connection all people here have, not only with each other, but with nature. We care deeply about ensuring that nature in the Hudson Valley stays healthy and beautiful for future generations to come. Many people, ourselves included, do not want to have the beauty of the Hudson Valley destroyed by the pollution and waste associated with fossil fuel production. Even as kids, we can see the need for change. The average global temperature has increased by 1 degree Celsius in the last 150 years alone. If climate change continues, sea levels will rise and there will be more extreme weather, biodiversity loss, and species extinction, not to mention food scarcity, worsening health, and poverty for millions of people worldwide. It's time for us to act. With the rising levels of carbon emissions, our community is in dire need of change. We're responsible for taking climate action by encouraging renewable energy production. More renewable energy in Philipstown would make our local power grid more reliable, secure, and resistant to environmental dangers. Installing renewable energy will not only reduce air pollution, it'll ensure a future we can be proud of. So just thank you to that group of Haldane and Garrison students for working on the statements. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Sure. Yep.
I got a little caught up in the minutia. I just want to say that I support this law. I think the children said this better than I can, and I totally endorse their statements. So thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you. If there's nothing else, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sure.
I'm Pamela Doan. I think this is so exciting. I'm really happy we're doing this. Quick question about balcony solar. Is there any provisions for like plug-in solar panels for homes, or is that, no?
No, there's not in it, but
I don't think it would constitute. Building mounted is what we have in addition to roof mounted, and I don't think that plug-in removable solar panels would fall under this law.
What you're
They're like really popular and available in Europe, where you can, have not something to power like your whole house, but like a few solar panels that you can just plug things into.
Like, say you want to put
They're not in your
like on your deck,
transfer
you want to
box.
put some lights or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
not in your, not plugged into your whole house, but
I got you. So you
continue.
kind of, I see.
yeah. Steve?
Well, I don't
This
think that's
law
your offense.
regulates solar panels that require a building permit. I think the solar panels you're talking about wouldn't require a building permit.
Okay.
So it's not like they're outlawed, it's just this wouldn't apply to them.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? If not, I'm going to move to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Okay, we're going to move right into the minutes. Approval of minutes, regular meeting, April 3rd, 2025. Anybody?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Public hearing, May 1, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Regular meeting, May 1, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Conservation Board.
I attended the Conservation Board meeting this past month because Jason was unavailable. The first thing on the agenda was gatekeepers management, 3691 Cold Spring, Route 9. There was a letter, the planning board requested a letter from the conservation board. It's a pretty long letter. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I just want to give you the highlights of what they came back with. So anyway, anyone was not aware, this is a project that's been in planning board for several months now. They have a 11-acre piece of property up there. It's already been used for other things, but they want to take 2 acres of this property to make a construction yard. So there was concerns. Most of the concerns they have there are obviously do with the wetlands and so forth like this. But this is the letter that the conservation board drafted and gave it to the planning board. They want a Clove Creek watercourse buffer to permanently delineate that can establish they want to make sure that it's a delineate the wetlands from the property. They want to do this with a split rail fence, a post fence, or a wire fence, whatever they decide to do. Areas allowed, areas that are going to be allowed to use for the tenant should also be clearly identified. Vehicle construction equipment areas should also include a geotech to prevent spillage of any possible contaminants from any type of equipment that may be there to leach into the aquifer. Material storage bins should be constructed with an impervious bottom, prevent leaching into the aquifer. Site plans should stipulate which types of items, materials cannot be stored, such as salt, mulch, millings. Pesticides. During the construction, refueling of any equipment should be conducted on an off-site or impervious surface to minimize the risk of contamination to the aquifer. The area to the west of the proposal of bare trees is the most negative native vegetation. The Conservation Board suggests that the applicant undertake a modest mitigation of this area, plant smaller hardwood trees and seedlings within the browser tubes that allow over time to forest and thrive. If lighting is going to be included, it should be dark sky lighting. They also recommend that the planning board usually requires berms for the trees. They're requesting that they really don't need to require any berms for the trees so they can save the money and use the money for the geotech. So that's the letter from the planning board. Also on the agenda for the conservation board, William Emily Duncan, 311 East Mountain Road. They had a problem. They had an application for a wetlands permit. That was permitted. New business. There was a violation of Barry Valletta Rodunda on 107 Albany Post Road. There's a notice of violation. The owner clear-cut a 100-foot section of a buffer next to the wetlands. Matt Garfunkel was going to make some recommendation. He was going to set up a site visit. I'm sure he'll get back to us next month on that. Other discussions. Up in Fishkill, they want everyone to know that Century Aggregates is proposing a concrete plant up on Route 9. If anyone knows where it is, Century Aggregates is one of the very first properties as you cross over into Dutchess County on your left-hand side. That place has been taking material out of there probably for 50, 60, 70 years. But anyway, now they want to put a concrete plant in there as well. Originally, they wanted a 20-acre property, 20 acres of this to be a concrete plant. They lowered it to 10 acres so to make it easier to get it approval. Anyway, they just want to let everyone know about this. They had a public hearing in Fishkill, and they kept the public hearing opened. Anyway, that site has a 300-acre parcel. They want to use 10 acres of a concrete plant. Now, if anyone's familiar with this area, right across the street is a concrete plant already. So, I mean, it's awful in my eyes. I don't know if you need 2 concrete plants within, a quarter mile of each other. But anyway, that's Fishkill's problem. It's not ours. They just wanted to give us the update. So that's the end of the report for the Conservation Board.
If you remember that, probably 12 years ago, 14 years ago, there was a proposed 600 trailer park going in there, which would have been students attending Haldane. Right. So there was a large push to not have that happen because it would have overwhelmed Haldane. But so the planning board was contacted in reference to this. The planning board referred it to the conservation board for their opinion, which Fishkill is valuing, and I know they are participating in this process. Steve, you and I looked at a letter from the conservation board to the town of Fishkill, which was sent with their concern.
The CB took care of that.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. All righty. Thank you, Bob. Thank you to Conservation Board. Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Commission met last week, Tuesday, May 27th, and welcomed 2 new trustees, commission members, Megan Shea and Kristen Sherman. Congratulations to them. They were both in attendance. As far as programs, the short summer session for recreation is beginning with senior, adult, and children's classes. This takes the Recreation Center right up into summer camp. The preschool, before and after school programs will finish by the end of June. And the seniors luncheon was held Wednesday, May 21st with full attendance. I understand it was sold out. Full capacity. It was very successful. The Putnam County Office for the Aging came and met with everyone. And the seniors are looking forward to upcoming trips, including a lunch cruise in Kingston, New York, and a tour at West Point with lunch at West Point. There are a few spots left for the West Point lunch for anyone that's interested. Summer camp preparations are still underway with registration numbers remaining strong, and there's a new payment system with families having secured their spots by paying deposits in advance, and that's working pretty well. The theater, the Depot Theater, had its annual fundraiser a few weeks ago, which was very successful. The headliner at the Depot Theater was Tango Diaries, and that was sold out as well. Children's summer theater programs are filling quickly, so please enroll your children if you would like them to participate in summer theater. The building and grounds work continues, especially the work on the water tower with 2 leaks having been repaired. They are in the final stages of filling the tank and removing the temporary tank, and that should be complete this week. There was some discussion at the Rec Commission meeting about how this is all going to be paid for, so maybe we could discuss that later in the meeting this evening, and concerns about the costs.
Yeah, it's owned by the Garrison Institute. We are partners with the Garrison Institute on this, so I don't think the repair will be as costly as we originally had figured, but we'll see. We'll know soon, I'm sure, but thank you.
And then finally, Philipstown Park is now open for the season. All programs are underway there. And the Friends of Philipstown Recreation provided an update on the pavilion from the that's the fundraising arm of the Recreation Department, the Friends of Philipstown Recreation. And the water has been turned on in the pavilion. They're currently awaiting the town engineer's approval with the county for the water. In addition, the general contractor, Mike Monteleone, expects his work to be completed within this month and the final fixture plumbing to be completed within the next week. That's it for the Recreation Department.
We'll have more on that later. Yeah, thank you. All righty. Thank you, Judy. Thank you to the Rec Commission and the staff. Thank you, gentlemen. Philipstown Hub. That's you too.
Thank you. The Philipstown Hub has, on May 9th, had a discussion with the community with Regina LaBelle, who is the former U.S. Director of the Presidential Office of National Drug Control Policy, and also with Brandon Del Pazzo, a health policy professor and former chief of police. 45 members of the community attended the event at Chapel Restoration. I think you were there, Supervisor Van Tassel, as well. I was sorry I was away and missed that, but I heard it was excellent discussion.
Amazing, amazing discussion. Yeah.
The Hub also hosted a book discussion on May 7th, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. The Hub has also held a private grief support group for Haldane students who have experienced loss. That was held on May 22nd. And the Women in ADHD met on May 5th and May 19th. The Adult Grief Support Group met on May 15th, and Caregivers of Adult Support Group met on May 30th. Miles for Mental Health was the 6th annual fundraiser for the Hub, and that was very successful. It's a public awareness event and fundraiser. Participants ran, biked, or hiked. We had 80 participants and generous local sponsors, so thank you to all the sponsors and participants. Regarding care coordination at the Hub, in May 2025, there were 264 contacts, and for the current fiscal year from 2024 to the current time, there have been 3,798 contacts. Of these, there were 61 by phone, 153 via email, 29 via text, 8 were at events, 1 over Zoom, 1 on the website, and 7 were through the UMatter line, and 4 were in person. There were personal stories that have been shared by the Hub and other information that I'm happy to share with anyone. If you would like to receive it, please let us know. We can send these stories to you, which are all very inspiring. So thank you to the Hub and all its supporters.
And I did attend that lecture. It was amazing. The Hub brought the drug czar to the town of Philipstown, and Brendan Del Pozo is a wealth of knowledge. There were so many questions asked. Unfortunately, I didn't get to ask the one I wanted to ask, but I did write to Michelle, and she is going. I wanted to say, as the supervisor or the mayor or the school principal, what is the one most important thing we can do to help with the problem? So I'm awaiting our response, but I did email them. But thank you. It was incredible. Thank you, Judy. Thank you to the Hub. Planning Board.
Okay, I attended the planning board meeting on May 15th. First on the agenda was Desmond Fish Library Pavilion is asking for a 6-month extension. The board approved that. There was a public hearing on the gatekeepers, which we just discussed, 3691 Route 9 Cold Spring. This public hearing, there was no public comment whatsoever. No one had anything to say about it whatsoever. So they closed the public hearing. They prepared a negative secret review. They're asking for revised plans that would need to be required, and they're preparing it for approval for June 19th meeting. June 19th is a holiday, but we're still having a planning board meeting on June 19th, so everyone, make sure everyone's aware of that. Old business, Luke Kingsley, 50 Albany Post Road in Cold Spring. They had been from the planning boards for several months now as well. They want to convert a 4-bay garage on the first floor of the building. They already have 2 two-bedroom apartments upstairs, but they want to convert the 4-bay apartments into 2 one-bedroom apartments. Again, they've been through the planning board before several months, and they're going to most likely they'll consider adoption for next month's resolution to get their approval for that. KB Properties, 201 West Point Road in Garrison on Route 9 as well. They've been through the planning board for almost a year now or so. All their approvals were met, and they approved the secret declaration, and the application was approved. That's it. The only next meeting, again, June 19th, meeting was adjourned at 7:55. I got to say, that was probably one of the shortest planning board meetings that I've ever attended in the last 12 years. So.
That's okay. Zoning.
Good evening. So there was no meeting held in May. The next meeting will be held on June 9th, and the zoning board will be discussing the approval of minutes for April, and there is new business to be discussed, for 47 Mill Road in Cold Spring. The applicant is seeking a variance, and also on 10 Pond Road in Cold Spring, the applicant is also seeking variance to build a 32 by 23.5 addition to the existing barn. And there is no old business, and the meeting will be held on June 9th at 7:30, run by our one and only Bob D.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the zoning board. Highway.
Highway report submitted by Adam Hotelli, Highway Superintendent. With all the rains this month, crews have been out fixing washouts, doing pipe work, and grading, and when weather permits. A major concern has been removing the beaver dams and dealing with them as they build them. We take them down, and the very next day they seem to be built back up. Most of those dams are on Waldo Pond Road, East Mountain Road South, and Old West Point Road and Jaycox Road. We've also begun mowing for the season. We are asking all residents to please have consideration for the crews working on the roads. Drive slowly and allow them to do their jobs. Please keep grass and brush of your property along the roadways trimmed back so motorists have a clear distance so they can see. Keep trimmed back all season long if you possibly can. Crews assist at the cemetery committee to clean up the work at McKeel's Cemetery. McKeel's Cemetery is up on 301 and Route 9. Just with the 250th anniversary of the country coming up here, there's a lot of activity going on to make cemeteries and so cleaned up and so forth. So anyway, we were requested to help out with that, and I've got to give a lot of thanks to the highway crew for doing so. They did a cleanup at McHale's Corner. It just involved renting a Kubota, cutting down a bunch of trees, clearing brush to clear the property. Crews also assisted the village of Nelsonville, flagging while installing electrical signs the last week or two or so ago. If anyone noticed, there's the new signs in Nelsonville. Shows you the speed, how fast you're going, and you can have some crosswalks as well. So anyway, they needed some assistance with flagging since the other crew was supposed to be able to do it, couldn't make it that day. So we stepped in and helped the village in Nelsonville with that all. Highway Department to welcome a new Kubota excavator with a bucket and a hammer for the new fleet. This was paid out of CHIPS money. The Highway Department roughly received 35 phone calls and emails and spent approximately $2,750 on vehicle maintenance for the month. End the report.
Thank you. Thank you to Adam and his crew. He can't be more cooperative than Adam has been with the town of Philipstown. As Bobby mentioned, the McKeel's Cemetery, there are 7 Revolutionary War veterans buried in that cemetery, and it was completely buried in trees, branches. So there was a crew of volunteers under the guidance of George Whipple and George Pataki that were going in there, but they weren't capable of moving the stuff that had to be done. So they contacted me, and I got Adam to go. They took, I believe, 6 truckloads of trees and branches out of there. So my thanks to them. And when we did participate with the Village of Nelsonville, we will be recouping that via an IMA, which we are going to propose in July to cooperate with the Village of Nelsonville, similar to what we have with the Village of Cold Spring. So, but more on that to come. Thank you to Adam and the highway crew. Building and land, I have nothing. Bobby?
I don't know if you want to cover this under this, but the Garrison Water District, we do have water flowing now from the well number 8. That was brought online May 7th. As you know, this has been a long time coming to get this up and running, but it's finally done. We're no longer buying water. We're no longer renting that storage down. I don't know if the storage, it's still there, but he told me. Okay, but I know we're not paying rent on it anymore. Okay, so just got to get it out of there. He's not. We're not paying rent anyway. It's a long time coming. It was a lot of work for everybody, but hey, we have to provide water. It's a basic need for everybody. You have to have water, no matter what you do, where you live. Water is a necessity for everybody. So. Like I said, this is a long time to get it done. We spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of money on this, but it's finally done, and hopefully that well will be there for the next 50, 60, 70 years.
And no leaks.
So, anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
One other thing with land, the sweet potato plant is happening tomorrow morning, 9 to 12. They're going in the ground. It's about, I was there today, it's about 30% more than what it was last year, and there's also, I would say, half acre of squash is going to be planted as well. So look forward to it. I'll be there planting.
Are you going down tomorrow? I was going to go down for a few hours.
Cemetery Committee.
There's nothing new to report. You guys touched base on the cemetery that's being cleaned up, so that's it.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the agenda.
First on the agenda is a resolution making a negative declaration under SEQRA on solar energy systems regulation local law, and this is a roll call vote.
You want to go ahead and read it, Tara?
The SEQRA one?
Not that you don't need to read the whole secret, but you can read the top or.
Yeah. Resolution making a negative declaration under SEQRA on solar energy systems regulation local law, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown has undertaken to enact a proposed local law entitled, a local law to enact a new section 175-42 entitled, Solar Energy Systems in Article VII entitled Supplementary Regulations of Chapter 175 entitled Zoning, to set forth a comprehensive policy for regulation of solar energy systems within the Town of Philipstown, and whereas the said local law is an action subject to SEQRA, and whereas the Town Board as lead agency has caused to be prepared an environmental assessment form, EAF, parts 1, 2, and 3, and whereas the Town Board, as assisted by its consultants, has considered the potential environmental impacts of the proposed action. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows, that the Town Board accepts and approves the said EAF parts 1, 2, and 3, and the supervisor is hereby authorized to sign the same, and that after considering all of the information presented to it, including the EAF, the Town Board adopts the negative declaration attached hereto.
Can I get a motion? Second.
Second.
Councilwoman Farrell.
I vote aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you very much.
Next is a resolution enacting a local law establishing regulations for solar energy systems. Want me to read this one too?
She might as well. Doing well.
Resolution enacting a local law establishing regulations for solar energy systems, whereas the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown has before it a proposed local law entitled, a local law to enact a new Section 175-42 entitled Solar Energy Systems in Article VII entitled Supplementary Regulations of Chapter 175 entitled Zoning to set forth a comprehensive policy for regulation of solar energy systems within the Town of Philipstown, and whereas following due notice, the Town Board held a public hearing on the proposed local law, and whereas the Town Board has completed review of the proposed local law under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the Town Board hereby adopts the local law, and 2, that the said local law shall be filed in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany as required by applicable law.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. And Bob, I appreciate your comments, and I'm sure we'll be addressing them at some point. But absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Next is a resolution accepting the resignation of Camille Linson from the position of Philipstown Town Justice effective June 5th, 2025.
We all know Camille and what she has done for this community and for our court. I can't say she's irreplaceable because we are replacing her, but some of the programs that she's brought to this town and just initiatives that have been absolutely amazing. She will be sorely missed. She can be tough, she could be caring, but always professional and knowledgeable. I can't thank Camille enough for the service, and I wish her well in her next adventure. So,
In England.
yeah, in another country. Can I get a motion accepting the resolution from Camille Linson?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Thank you, Camille.
Yes, amazing. Amazing individual.
Next is a resolution appointing a town justice to fill a vacancy in the Town Justice Court of the Town of Philipstown, and this is a roll call vote.
You want to read, or you want me to go ahead?
Hearing a lot of Sarah today.
Doing well, Clara.
Resolution appointing a town justice to fill a vacancy in the Town Justice Court of the Town of Philipstown. Whereas, due to the resignation of Town Justice Camille S. Linson, a vacancy has been created in the position of Town Justice in the Town of Philipstown, and whereas it is necessary to appoint a town justice to fill the said vacancy in order for the Town Justice Court to continue to operate until such time as an election can be held for a new town justice, and whereas the Town Board has considered the matter and determined to appoint Luke Hilpert, Esquire, as Town Justice until the said office can be filled at the general election being held on November 4th, 2025, with the term of the newly elected Town Justice to commence on January 1st, 2026. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows, that One, that Luke Hilpert is hereby appointed to serve as Town Justice in the Town of Philipstown Justice Court effective June 5, 2025, at a salary of $32,000 prorated for a term ending on December 31st, 2025, and that the town supervisor, the town comptroller, and the town clerk are hereby authorized and directed to prepare and file any documents necessary to carry out the terms of the resolution.
So my thanks to Luke Hilpert for stepping up and being a part of the process. Both justices, Camille and Angela, interviewed Luke and were pleased with him. I think we all know Luke. He'll be a wonderful justice for the town. There's still some confusion in my mind, but I see it ends on December 2025, so he will be on the ballot in November to be elected.
That's correct. My understanding is that town sends a copy of the resolution adopted tonight with a copy of Camille's resignation to the Board of Elections. The Board of Elections then will create a space on the ballot, will notify all recognized parties in the town that they can nominate a candidate. If no candidate is nominated and no one's elected, Luke would hold over until the next election. But I expect it'll be on the ballot. Whoever wants to run will be on the ballot, and that's the way it'll go. This appointed term will expire at the end of the year.
So we'll know for sure, I guess, once these are
Next
submitted.
week, for sure.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, can I get a motion appointing Luke Hilpert to serve out the term?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Welcome.
Next is discussion and review of the proposed Town of Philipstown annual conflict of interest disclosure form.
Okay, Judy, you want to?
Sure, I can start and then maybe Steve can elaborate. We did discuss, because of some questions that we've had from people that are appointed to town committees and commissions, including volunteers, and also for staff, the potential to have a conflicts of interest form for our town. Lots of organizations and government entities at every level have conflict of interest disclosure forms. So it's helpful to know if anyone has a conflict, if they are going to be appointed, or if they're already serving in a volunteer or staff capacity. So.
Which is important in a town the size of this one, when we
Yes,
all
because
know
we all know
everybody
each
and we
other.
work for each other. And so it's tough. And Steve, I know you've highlighted a few more items on it. So.
Sure. This is, again, a very vanilla disclosure form. There are 4 parts to it. The first part is personal information, and the reason for that is that if you, under your town code of ethics, have an interest in any business before the town, or if your spouse does, or if your son or daughter does, then you have a conflict in that particular matter. So if your son came before the ZBA, you would have to recuse yourself. That's the same thing with matters before the town board. So this first section, this would be filled out annually by all elected officials and board members in the town.
All the standing board, all the elected officials will
Yeah,
fill
it doesn't
this.
extend to advisory boards. You could change that by resolution if you wanted,
Right.
but I mean, town board, ZBA, CB, that type of thing, would say their name, their spouse's name, their position with the town, their residence, and then they would list this form only applies to dependent offspring. So if you had an adult child who was off and married in their own house, you wouldn't have to disclose that. If they came before your board, you'd still have to recuse yourself, but I didn't want to get, and this was taken from other forms, by the way, I didn't just make this up. We didn't go that far afield as, just name everybody who you have as a son or a daughter or a stepchild or what have you. The second part is interest in real property. The reason for that is, of course, if you have real property that's either being affected by a local law that's being adopted, or real property that's being affected by property that's coming before a board, you're on the planning board, for example, and your neighbor's property comes before the planning board to be approved or disapproved for some use, you should recuse yourself. You have an interest in your property. The interest in your property is affected by an approval next door. So this would require people to disclose any interest in real property that they have in the town of Philipstown. Third is an interest in contracts with the town of Philipstown, and this extends to any business that a person or their spouse or a member of their family, again, we're just talking about siblings or children who are at home, might have. So if you had a snowplow business, and the snowplow business had a contract with the town, or landscaping business, whatever it might be, you would be required to disclose that contract. You almost never see these contracts for a sitting board member. Where you see them is someone's newly elected and they had a contract with the town before, were newly appointed. And lastly is corporate interests in contracts. This would be if an employer of a board member of any kind, or a corporation that someone owned, had a contract with the town, you'd have to disclose that. So as opposed to a personal contract, this would be a corporate contract. From time to time, you're going to see things like, there's a mechanic or a vendor of some kind who sells things to the town, and someone works for the vendor. They don't own the vendor, but they work for the vendor. If the contract is up and your employer is looking to, get a contract with the town, you have to disclose that you work for that employer. Sometimes corporations come in and seek land use approvals. And again, if your employer is seeking a land use approval and you're sitting on the ZBA or the planning board, you should disclose that and recuse yourself. Just to avoid a situation where somebody owns stock in some electric company or something like that that's coming in, it's limited to 10% interests in ownership of a corporation. So if you own stock in, I don't know, a gasoline company, and the gasoline company's selling gas to the town, you don't have to disclose it unless you're a big owner, 10% of the corporation. And that's all that it requires. There's an attestation at the bottom. You have to say that everything is true, that you write down. And if there's a change, you have to file an amended form within 30 days.
So we'll fill these out annually, it'll be held by the clerk's office, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
And if there's any discussion or conflict, it would have to go before, I'm assuming you would review it? If there's a marginal.
A conflict, then yeah, I suppose it would be me. I don't think you have a sitting Board of Ethics, do you?
Yeah.
No, so it would start out with me, and then if it was necessary, you would, I think you have provision for it in your code, you just never appointed. So that's the way that would work. The clerk would have a list of the people who are required to file, all elected officials, all appointed board members, and just has a checklist. Everybody's filed theirs at the end of the day.
Add this to the annual meeting and make it even more exciting.
Well, no, they would file it after the reorg meeting. That wouldn't be at the reorg meeting. They're required to file it annually. It doesn't have to be before the first of the year or even the first meeting. First 30 days is plenty, and if people don't, then the clerk sends out an email saying, hey, you got to get your, it's not like you're barred from office if you don't hand it in timely. One other thing to point out, I know every time you have these forms, there is a concern over undue invasion of privacy. You're putting personal information on here. If someone were to foil these, the generic things would be left in, but there would have to be a redaction to any personal information so that, you wouldn't be in a position where you're disclosing information that would leave you vulnerable to stalking or the like. If
So
you want to enact it, we'll need a resolution saying that it,
We could enact this next month, I don't think.
if you don't want to make changes, it was on for discussion tonight at the board
Does anybody
meeting.
have any suggestions for changes or concerns? No? No? Yes, Dinky.
I didn't hear who refused this? I mean, who determines whether there is something in this,
This,
once the person fills this out?
this would prevent me, say as a contractor doing work, I would have to disclose that, I've done work for Bob D, and it's gonna clarify, possible concerns of, how do I put this? It's not that simple, but
The remedy is that in the event that there was a conflict and someone objected to action taken by the board, this sheet filled out and filed with the town would provide a basis to go to court and annul the action taken and say it was
And if-
taken under a conflict of interest.
if in fact it involved me and the decision was before the town board, I would have to recuse myself from the conversation.
And it would be kept in the town clerk's office.
Clerk's office, right? She's the store of records.
So everybody on our board and all the other boards need to fill this out.
Yes. Yeah.
And how about our employees?
The
No,
employee,
it doesn't extend to
Oh, okay.
employees. There's
they don't
no
have
need
the
for-
ability to make a decision in this
Okay,
case,
I
right?
just wanted
It's elected
clarification on
officials
that.
and
It's elected
appointed
officials,
boards,
and we have, decision-making
but not
ability.
advisory boards unless you want to change that.
I mean, if you guys are good with it, we can approve it tonight and enact it.
You really want a written resolution saying it has to be filed annually, because otherwise, if somebody doesn't file it annually, they're going to say, where is it written that I have to file this annually? You want a resolution in place.
Well, why don't we do a resolution in July, then, make it easy. Yeah, that's fine. So I'd like to table item 5 until the July meeting when we can get a resolution in place.
To file it annually.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Judy, for preparing that.
Sure.
It's the-
Annually, beginning January 1st, is that what?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what you would do.
thanks.
Next is a resolution authorizing the Highway Department purchase of a 3500 Dodge Ram tradesman truck with plow from Robert Green Truck Division off the Onondaga City contract with funds received through auctioning off old equipment in the amount of $57,010.88.
So Adam did a little house cleaning up there and basically had a yard sale with all the junk and was able to raise quite a bit of money through a auction process, and it's enough to cover the cost of this new vehicle. So, and it was stuff that we were not using, and it's sitting in the yard up there, but quite valuable, I guess. So can I get a motion approving the purchase of a 3,500 Dodge Ram tradesman truck with plow from Robert Green Truck Division of Onondaga City, contract with funds received through auctioning off old equipment in the amount of $57,010.88.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is a discussion regarding the condition of the Town Pavilion at Philipstown Park.
You're up. Can you call? Actually,
How can it be in great condition?
actually, I was there today. It looks good. The outside is looking wonderful. Yep.
Can we use the bathroom? Like if my softball girls need to go to the bathroom? Can we
Very
use it?
soon.
All right, I like
Yeah.
it.
So Mike Monteleone and the plumber have. It's going to take him about a month to finish it. So the plumber gets in, does some work. He goes in and does some work. So the back and forth.
There's no rough end in the walls yet or anything.
Correct. Yep. So that'll all take about a month, according to Mike. He's going to start next week, I believe, is what he said. And then Ron Gaynor has asked Lee Erickson has to do one more UV test, submit that to the Department of Health, and then we'll get they'll sign off on it, and we'll be good to go.
And then the electrical still needed to be done in the bathrooms, it looked like, in the kitchens.
All that is through. Yeah, Mike's working on all of that.
Okay. And sheetrock and the rest will be all.
Yep.
So what is the target? And I've had some people obviously contacting me. It looked like it's rotting away. I said, no, it's not rotting away. It's just not functioning yet, but it will. And when will we be receiving the TL funds for the Hudson Highland Reserve? Any idea? When will that process? Because that will enable us to do some.
I'm not sure.
There is money coming in from the Hudson Highland Reserve, and it needs to be applied to recreation equipment, there needs to be some work done at Glassberry. The dog park needs to be updated. The dock needs to go back in. But I was thinking if there's something that's needed to get the pavilion completed, it would be there's funds now, so.
Love that. Yeah. So the final expenses will be between 15 and 20,000.
Right.
So
The fixtures are all there. I saw
yep,
those today.
we've got everything. So it's just really the work through Mike and the plumber. We have that, but we will welcome more.
Right.
So
Well, I mean, it's got to be outfitted. There's going to be
Yeah.
tables. There's going to need.
sure, we have all the ground cover, all that
Rest,
stuff.
yeah.
At the rec commission meeting last week, we talked about having.
And state your name.
Yes. Hi, John Mosick, Philipstown Rec Commission. We talked about maybe having some of the fields improvements monies placed into the picnic tables, et cetera. We were just wondering if that money would be available, or is that on hold for the water tower for those repairs?
I'm not worried about the water tower right
Okay.
now. We'll address that.
So there was a little bit of money still on the line item on the budget that we could also put towards the
Right.
pavilion that we had
Well, and
discussed.
again, these funds are coming in from the subdivision, so we would be able to factor some of that as
That'd be
well.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Any other?
So your target grand opening, there's going to be a big gala down there?
Oh yeah, we have some plans in place. So I mean, if all goes well, if Mike's on track now, we've had some timelines again where they're somewhat volunteering their work and effort. So if jobs come in, we get pushed down, and which is why the delay on this has taken so long. But he's given us his word that in the next month, so we're thinking end of July, just as a safety measure, everything will be finished. And so for fall sports, we'd love to have a grand opening.
Don't tell Mike I said this, but if we could do it for for a fall grand opening and for the fall sports,
that's
it'd be
the goal.
wonderful. My appreciation to Mike and for you guys for the work that you've done. But
Yeah.
Mike has been there. It's an amazing structure. If you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, you really
Oh, yeah, it's
you
awesome.
walk around. It's impressive. It fits the community perfectly.
Yep.
It does.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Thank
we're
you.
excited. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John. Appreciate
Yep.
it.
Next is a resolution confirming adoption of negative declaration under SEQRA in regard to borrowing for the Garrison Landing Water District improvements, and this is a roll call vote.
So I have our comptroller here tonight, Kevin McKeon. Kevin, if you just want to touch on our financing approach and how this has started and where we're headed with it.
Sure, so,
Yep, come on up to the mic.
I thought I got a pass. So the finance agreement's going to be a borrowing that's going to allow the town to fund the rest of the work that needs to be done, install meters, and kind of get the Garrison Landing Water District up and running. Some of that funding will then reimburse general fund for some of the costs it's incurred on behalf of that. That financing is going to be an annual ban, so it'll renew annually. Once we get the ban in place, we'll see about maybe possible long-term financing solutions. The goal being to keep the cost as low as possible for the taxpayers and spread it out for as long as possible.
And that assessment will go on the residents of the Garrison Landing. So we are working as hard as we can to lengthen that payback period so the payments will be reasonable. But the other part of this money will go towards installing new meters because the meters that are there have not worked in 15 years. I think Sue had the last bill were like 2005 or 2007.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
So there was never money available to replace the meters, so it was never done. And we were always under the assumption that the maximum we could charge to that district was $20,000 a year. That number has been told to me at least 100 times. It came from Richard, which it came from Bill. So I don't, 1999. So I don't know where that came from, but we were audited and it was brought up. But I've mentioned this before, the auditors only look at the financial part of it. There was a human part of it, was that we had to provide water to the Garrison Landing. Not only did the wells fail, but we had catastrophic leaks. We had one in January underneath the railroad tracks halfway between the eastbound track and the westbound track, which required us to put a temporary water line through the tunnel. Then we put a permanent water line through the tunnel. We've basically repaired every single water line in the Garrison Landing at this point, including the line coming down the hill that supplies. The other work we're still looking at putting in, and once the financing's in place, we have a meter for the wells coming in. We still have the two other wells producing a small amount of money. I wish they produced money. Small amount of water, but we do have the high yield well on the south end of where the sweet potato field is. That's 30 gallons a minute. Hopefully it'll stay at 30 gallons a minute. But we want a meter on the outgoing side so we know immediately if there's a leak or a big usage that's going on down there. So then we will come up with a flat rate for residential use. We're going to come up with a flat rate for commercial use, and then there will be a rate per gallon for the water usage. There are a few houses or a few locations there that are exempt, where they're no longer going to be exempt from the water usage. They're going to pay, everybody will pay their fair share for water. So it will be an impact for the homeowners or the property owners in Garrison Landing. I plan on having a meeting with them and discussing it, but it's an expense. It was very expensive for the town of Philipstown to provide water. It's been going on since 2018, 2017 we've been purchasing water. We have worked endlessly to remedy this problem, from wells on the golf course to a well that we couldn't drill on a golf course because of the fertilization that takes place on the golf course. We ended up going across the street. We drilled on our property 1,000 feet, got 1 gallon per minute. Then we ended up moving further south after the guidance of a hydrogeologist, and we finally have a well that's producing water. There's a generator and a tank, a gas tank on location, so it will, be able to function when the power goes out, which obviously you need water when the power goes out still. And that we're hoping that'll be the answer for the next 40 years, so long enough to get us through there. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the financing end of it?
So this is going to be long-term, the financing of the bond. Is there an estimate of the cost to taxpayers of?
We have no numbers yet. Any rough numbers yet per?
No, not yet. They're bans, and so they'll renew annually, but because it's water-related, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, like those bans can go on for a longer term than a regular ban, which is only 5 years. But a water-related ban can go on for 20 or 30 years. In fact, there's bans that are out there now that are 20 or 30 years old for the Garrison Landing Water District.
So we're looking to extend it as long as possible to reduce the payments on the 9 or 12 property owners that are there.
That's right. There's only 3 properties that have personal wells within that district, so those are the only 3 people, I think, assuming they're not getting water from the well pump, they won't be charged the water.
We did get an estimate per household from Cody, the Semco, to install a meter. It was around $2,000 per home, providing they don't have to repair the line coming in, and and they're accessible because they've been there a long time without usage. So.
And the commercial properties are the restaurant and the boat club, is that?
And the theater.
The theater and the boat club.
The yacht club.
The yacht club, yes, okay.
They're exempt from property tax, but not from operating and maintenance costs for, water districts, so.
Everybody, including myself, assumed that Dolly's was using more water than everybody else. But the interesting thing is Semco also does, Dolly's has basically a sewer treatment plant. So he knows exactly the amount of water that's being processed. And he said to me, he goes, I guarantee you some of the homes are using more water than what they're, it's all high efficiency washers. And I mean, they do serve water on the table, but there's one bathroom, as you know, if you go to Dolly's. So you're not doing laundry, you're not taking showers. So, but we'll know exactly what everybody is using once the meters are in. Good. Okay. So we're gonna, this is a roll call. We have it here, right?
Yep.
Do we need to read through this? I don't think we do. Does anybody want us?
Motion to waive the reading. The SEQRA resolutions are just technical anyway.
Okay.
You have a second, waive the reading, and then just have someone say, motion to adopt the resolution confirming adoption of a negative declaration under SEQRA in regard to borrowing for Garrison Landing Water District improvement.
Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the SEQRA?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. Can I get a motion adopting the negative declaration of the SEQRA?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
Councilman Angel.
Aye.
Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. You switched it up on that one, Terry.
Next is a resolution setting a public hearing on the increase and improvement of the facilities of the Garrison Landing Water District, and this is another roll call vote.
So we're going to set we need a roll call vote to set the public hearing?
Yes, so it's a separate resolution, and you also have to decide when you want to have the public hearing. I sent out an email. It was either June 24th or 26th, but then you did mention that you could.
Yeah, we're
No,
going to need
can't,
to meet
'cause it has
next
to be
Wednesday.
noticed for a certain period of time, so the earliest we can do it is that.
This we can't do next Wednesday.
No,
because
we
of no
cannot do
time.
this next
Right.
Wednesday.
So this is going to have to wait.
It won't even be noticed until next Wednesday because of our paper of record, and
Okay.
it only gets published once a week, so it'll be published next Wednesday on the 11th. It has to be between 10 and 20 days, so really the earliest we could do is that week of June 23rd.
Okay, can I get a motion to waive the reading of this the reading of this entire document? Second. All in favor? Aye. I vote aye. So we're going to need a motion to establish the public hearing. Do we have a date? I know there's some problems with the 24th and the 26th. I am available on either. Bobby, you're available for both?
So we would have a quorum for each because you can't come the 26th, and you said no to the 24th, but you can come the 24th, and you
Jason,
could
you-
come the
Okay, so I guess it's the 24th.
You need 4 votes to approve this, so you have to make sure you have 4 people there.
Oh, we will. On the 24th, we will.
Be here on the
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Judy's the one who can't make.
So can I get a motion to put this on for a public hearing on June 24th? Roll.
If it wasn't bonding, I wouldn't give you a hard time about it, but in this particular case, what I'd like the board to do is have a motion to approve the order calling the public hearing with the modification that the public hearing will be held on June 24th, not June 26th.
Okay, can I get a motion for that?
Yes, so moved.
Second. We're roll call voting that. Okay, Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
Councilwoman Angel.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So we'll be here for the 24th.
Next is a resolution approving the proposal from MJM Television and Video Productions for a used Leightronix Ultra Nexus playback system for the municipal channel in the amount of $1,200, which includes install, training, downloading software, testing, and adding content to the channel.
Bob?
This is going to get us some. Our municipal channel has been working in quite some time. We have new video equipment on here. This is going to be the first step towards getting that completely 100% up and running. But anyway, we need this to get the municipal channel back up and running, which I think is only fair to do since it hasn't been used in a long time. Correct me if I'm wrong. With this, I think we can be able to use Zoom. Those all different types of options we have with this. So this is the first step to get everything working. So, like I said, we did a lot of research on this, and this is the least expensive way to get our municipal channel back up and running.
Can I get a motion approving this purchase for $1,200?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye.
Next is a resolution supporting the proposal for New York State DOT to install no parking signs along Route 9 in the area of Short Street and 3176 Route 9 in the town of Philipstown, and authorizing the supervisor to send a letter to New York State DOT expressing such.
Okay, I'll read this one. Whereas the town of Philipstown has identified traffic and safety concerns along State Route US Route 9 in the town of Philipstown, particularly in the area of Short Street and 3176 Route 9, and whereas has been proposed to alleviate the said traffic and safety concerns by having the New York State Department of Transportation install no parking signs along Route 9 in that said area, and whereas the town of Philipstown supports the said proposal. Now therefore it hereby resolved as follows, that the town board supports the proposal for the New York State Department of Transportation to install no parking signs along US Route 9 in the area of Short Street and 3176 Route 9 in the town of Philipstown, and that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to send a letter to the New York State Department of Transportation expressing the town board's support for the proposed no parking signs and representing that the town board is willing to enact an amendment to the town code to prohibit parking in said area in order to give law enforcement officials the right to issue violations to the full extent of the law for illegal parking in that said area. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote
Just so
aye.
you know, we received a letter from the state regarding this, so it was the thing that we needed to do. I mean,
There
if
seems to be parking going
this,
on in that
yeah,
spot.
in that section there. This is on Short Street. You notice that the deli's right across the street, and Vera's is right there as well. So there's been trucks parking on the other side of the road, which they really shouldn't be. And then while you at it, the 3176 which is where B&L Deli is. Okay, there's a lot of trucks been parking there. Not just trucks, there's cars as well. So, as you know, if you're trying to get out of the B&L Deli, there's a truck parked there. You have a hell of a chance of getting out of there. It's pretty slim and very can't see. So this will hopefully help alleviate that safety
As a
issue.
matter of fact, our town highway trucks were there parked when, and I let them know to leave. But
Next is a resolution establishing the standard workday and reporting resolution for elected and appointed officials, and this is a roll call vote.
okay, can I get a motion to adopt this ROA agreement? Actually, we need to do a roll call as this as well. Just can I get a motion, please?
So
Second. Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
Councilman Angel. Aye. Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilwoman Cotter.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is to schedule any workshops or meetings. So we have the public hearing that we just scheduled for June 24th on the Garrison Landing Water District. That'll be at 7:30. And then, as you can see, our monthly meeting for July is scheduled for July 3rd, the day before Independence Day. We're off that Friday. I don't know if you want to move it to the following week, or if everyone's okay with meeting that night.
It doesn't matter to me. Do you guys have a preference? Is anybody traveling for the July 4th holiday?
I won't be around for that weekend.
Okay, so the 10th, we'll move it to the 10th. Does that work?
So let's keep it on the third.
Let's just do the 3rd. Yep.
Now, the third's a Thursday, right? And so Friday's the 4th.
We also need to schedule a workshop for next Wednesday to deal with a property issue. We're awaiting a resolution from the town attorney.
For the Wednesday, the 11th at 7:30?
Yep.
Okay.
I will be out of town, but
All right, well, we got
Still have a
4.
quorum.
No, John, I'm actually not here.
You're not gonna be
No,
there.
I have a thing with Northern.
Well, we have 3. Jason, are you gonna be here next Wednesday?
I will get paid for it.
Yes, I believe so. I'm I've got to figure out one kid thing, so.
Just bring them.
Bring them, I brought mine.
It won't be long.
All right, no, it won't take long at all, so, but we need to address something, so, thank you.
Next up is the Code Enforcement Monthly Report. This is for May 2025. Total fees collected, $50,030. There were 35 total permits issued, 1 new 1 or 2 family dwelling, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 32 all other permits. There were 27 certificates of occupancy issued, 5 inspections of public assembly, and 1 inspection of commercial occupancies.
Thank you to Greg Warner, and we do have our new code enforcement officer who we're sharing with the town of Putnam Valley. He did start, I forget the date, it was 31st.
Been here about a week and a half.
Yeah, so he's doing, every Wednesday he's in Putnam Valley due to a scheduling issue there, but then we're alternating the days, 2 days here, 2 days in Putt Valley, so it'll be a wash. He is our employee, and we're going to be reimbursed by Putnam Valley for 50% of his salary and 50% of his benefits. So if you haven't met him, he's a wonderful guy. He's working well with Greg, and it'll allow Greg to get caught up on some of the stuff. As you can see, there's been quite a bit of activity, as well as with the village of Nelsonville and Cold Spring, so which they assist in paying for it also. Thank you to the building department.
Next up is any other business that may come before the town board.
Anything? You guys have any?
Just one thing, myself and Supervisor Vantasso did a site visit to Shakespeare Festival down there. It's a pretty impressive structure they're putting up. It's got a long ways to go, but just it was nice to go to see it, how much work has been done there. It's going pretty fast in my eyes. Well,
they need to be open for next season.
I know, but anyway.
That's
So
the
anyway,
target.
it's looks nice to me, and hopefully we keep it on schedule, and we'll have it up and running next year. There's a lot of work going on down there.
Yeah, it certainly is.
That's good to hear. And this evening, the short-term rental committee met, and 7 people are volunteering to participate and help develop a proposal for our town. So we started that process and
It'll be
hope to
done
have.
next week.
We'll have it done next. Hopefully by the fall, we'll have a proposal to the board, and then move forward from there. Get the public's input, of course. Also, we did, as I mentioned earlier, have some discussion at the Rec Commission meeting about the water towers. So I think it's reassuring to hear it might not cost as much as we hope, but we never know with water.
We didn't have to replace it. That's a big
Oh, that's a big
savings.
savings, yeah.
Or the
that's great.
pipe, it was patched, right.
And finally, I'd just like to wish people a happy Pride Month for those who are celebrating the Pride Month this month, June.
Jason? Megan?
No, said all my, I just said.
Anything from the audience? Going once? Going twice? Did you get in touch with the contact? 'Cause-
I sent them an email and I never got a response.
Okay, we will address it as well. Thank you. Bob, you got that?
Yeah, I'll follow up with him, because I sent him an email. He answered me almost immediately.
He wants us to sign a contract, so.
So,
Dinky,
Anyway.
you gotta have something for us. Come on. You're on a streak.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No, but we keep in contact. I usually know when
Yeah,
she's not.
in
coming.
fact,
I know she's
yes,
okay.
Dinky Romley,
we
and
know
I'm
you're
sorry I have not fulfilled my pledge to attend every meeting, but I am trying. And I am sorry that more members of the public do not come to these meetings, especially since we're in election season now. It would be nice if people would come and really see what it is that you folks do for us. And so I, for one, appreciate it. And since I'm all very much involved in the election that's coming up, because I'm a member of the Philipstown Democrat Committee, I'm going to do everything I can to let the public know that it's important who they elect to be on this board. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
So,
Vacancies.
vacancies. We still have one conservation board, one planning board.
These
I mean,
are,
I sent you.
You got a resume for planning board,
We did get. I think we got more than one. I think there were 2 or 3 that I forwarded to you guys. I can re-forward them again, or I can print them and put them all together so you can.
One for the planning board.
these are important positions, conservation and planning board. If you want to make a difference in the town, these are great groups to be involved with, so. Approval of vouchers, general. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And I vote aye. Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? And I vote aye. Continental Village Water.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.